The glasses going up.
Good evening. I am the committee chair, Stephanie Hill, and on behalf of committee members and staff, I would like to welcome you to the April 10th, 2024 City of Roseville Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee meeting. This 5-member committee is charged with the annual review and report to the City Council on the revenue and expenditures of funds from the General Transactions and Use Tax, known as Measure B, that was passed by voters on November 6, 2018. I will now call this meeting to order. Terry, please call the roll.
Chair Hill,
Here.
Vice Chair Bunnell,
Here.
Committee Member Betancourt,
Here.
Committee Member Kitchell,
Here.
Committee Member Spate. All members are present with the exception of Committee Member Spate.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This part of the agenda, public comment, is for anyone who would like to address the committee on any item not listed on tonight's agenda. The Brown Act does not permit action on items discussed during public comment. When addressing the committee, please stand at the podium, state your name for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move on to item 5, approval of minutes. This item is approval of the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 meeting of the Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee. Are there any comments from the committee?
Nope.
Are there any public comments? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve?
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Committee Member Kitchell, seconded by Committee Member Betancourt to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 meeting of the Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion has passed. Moving on, for this item, staff is recommending that the Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee adopt a motion to approve the committee's report that will be presented to the City Council.
Good evening, Chair Hill and committee members. My name is Dennis Kaufman. I'm the city's Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. And with me tonight is Scott Pettengill, the Assistant Finance Director. In your packet tonight is the report that was drafted by Committee Member Kitchell and Committee Member Bunnell, reporting on the city's Measure B revenues and expenditures for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Along with that draft report is the scorecard that staff prepared for your analysis and inclusion with your report. And also included with the staff report is the city's annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2022-2023. And included in the staff report are some references to that document, certain pages where Measure B is mentioned in that report. And that report, that we call it the ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. That's our independent audit report that's required by the city charter and also by federal and state law. And the auditors gave us a clean audit opinion on the city's financial statements, and so we wanted to provide that to the committee and provide those references to you for Measure B sales tax revenue. And with that, the purpose of this item, as you indicated, is for the committee to discuss and pass a motion to finalize this report for the City Council. And then our next agenda item is for the committee to identify one or two of you to make a presentation of this report to the City Council at their council meeting on Wednesday, May 1st.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the committee?
I have a question, or a comment and a question, I guess. One of the things that Jordan and I considered was doing a 5-year summary, because the 5th year, actually, the taxes have been collected for 4.5 years now, correct? So this is technically the 5th year since it was established, but it would only have been collected for 4.5 years. So the question was, do we want to include a 5-year summary of the revenues and the status of the city, or do we want to wait until we have 5 full years of collections?
What were your thoughts, since you were?
When we talked about it, I thought since technically we only have 4.5 years, it made more sense maybe to wait till we have the full 5. But I don't know if since it started mid 2019 and around June, if we're about there, if it would make sense to do it now.
I think it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I think the difference between 4.5 and 5 years is not a whole lot. So just giving everybody an update on what's going on is probably a good idea.
I'm with Jordan. We're not at full 5 years yet. What do you recommend?
Do you have a thought on it?
What are you looking for? Let me ask that.
So Chairmember Kitchell thinks or recommends that we should do a 5-year overall summary of Measure B, what it's done. Looks like we're kind of split on that. If we're not even really at 5 years yet, should we do it now or next year?
So our intent with the scorecard is to identify what has been done in the current year budget, but there is also there kind of a recap of how the city has used Measure B over the course of the 4 years and 3 months of collections. Given our timeline and the council meeting coming up on May 1st, I think my only concern about putting together a recap of the first 4 years is just the time to bring that back. We don't have another meeting scheduled for the committee before May 1st. Certainly, it's something we could do for next year's scorecard. By then, having 5 fully audited years of Measure B activity.
Yeah.
So
That was kind of my thought too, is that a full 5 years would be nice, and I think Jordan felt the same way.
Yeah, and I think what you said makes sense with the meeting coming up May 1st. It would give us more time to be able to get everything together, since we don't have another meeting
Yeah.
scheduled.
So we can make a note that in 24, 25, that we want to make sure we do that. Can we do that? Okay.
Yeah. I think another question that we were also talking about was how much the city is allocating for the reserves in like the fourth quarter summary. Is there an exact amount? Because I know the city allocates a certain amount in case of like to prepare for a recession and things like that. Is there a specific amount that's measured, or how do we know what the reserves are for that?
Yeah, and I believe at our last meeting, we provided the reserve policy that kind of outlines for the emergency reserve, the target set by council is 10% of expenditures, and the stabilization reserve is 15% of expenditures. And the way we measure that is when we develop the proposed budget each fiscal year for the city council to consider. We look at the budgeted expenditures, and we take 25%, the combination of those two reserves, and we propose funding those amounts so that we maintain a combination of those reserves that are equal to 25% of the budgeted expenditures.
Okay, so since Measure B went into effect in 2019, that's been the standard policy since then?
The stabilization reserve, which is the 15%, was put into place after Measure B was passed.
Oh, okay.
As one of the ways to make sure during economic downturns that we have sufficient reserves to maintain services that the community expects. And so that was one of the benefits of Measure B, was building up those reserves.
Seems smart.
Are you limited to 15%? Or can you exceed that?
Under the policy, we have that target, which we look at as a limit. Certainly, council could approve going above that, either by changing the policy or approving recommendations to take it higher. That question hasn't come up since we adopted the reserve policy, and I will share with you, we did an informal survey of cities in our region and cities our size in Northern California, and found that 25% is kind of the median of our comparable agencies.
Has there been any historical reference to how much that reserve gets spent every year?
Our goal is not to spend it unless we encounter an economic downturn. Fortunately, the only time that we've looked to potentially spending it was at the very beginning of the pandemic, when businesses were closed and our sales tax revenue was dropping because of those closures. And so the first proposed budget coming into the pandemic, we proposed to potentially draw from the reserves to maintain services. But fortunately, things did not get as bad as we thought they might. And ultimately, we did not end up drawing from the reserves.
So what happens to the reserve at the end of the year if you haven't drawn from it?
It gets carried over to the next year. Yep.
And then the only change would be it'd be 15% of the existing budget, so it may increase or decrease depending upon the overall budget.
That's correct.
Did the city do anything like this before you started this policy?
We had the 10% emergency reserve prior to Measure B.
Okay.
But you have several reserves now that are
We-
relatively new over the last few years, is that
Yeah.
correct?
The stabilization reserve is the biggest one that was funded by Measure V. The city has had a litigation reserve for many years that's smaller, $250,000, in case the city faces a lawsuit and needs to move quickly. We have a small reserve set up for that. We have a fairly new reserve for our development services department operations because of the nature of their revenue collections, where they collect significant amounts of revenue for like commercial development, but a project can take multiple years for staff to work on it. And we want to make sure that if we have a dip in development activity like we saw during the Great Recession, that we have enough resources in reserve to maintain staffing levels to complete those projects. But other than that, those are the general fund reserves.
Are there any other questions from the committee or comments? No. Are there any public comments on this item? Do I have a motion to approve the committee's report to the city council?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Motion by Committee Member Bunnell and seconded by Committee Member Betancourt to approve the committee's report to the city council. Terry, can you call the roll call, please?
Chair Hill,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bunnell,
Yes.
Committee Member Betancourt, Committee Member Kitchell,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you. For this item, staff is recommending that the Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee adopt a motion to designate one or two committee members to present the committee's report to the city council. Did you have additional presentation at this time?
Yes, I will just mention that in the past, when this committee has made its presentation to the city council, the committee has determined one or two committee members to make the presentation to the council. It's a relatively short presentation. It's a kind of a recap of your report. Certainly, all of the committee can attend the meeting, but typically the presentation is made at the podium by one or two of you. And so the recommendation is that you, as a group, identify one or two of you to make the presentation to the council on May 1st.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the committee?
I thought we did that last time. I thought we recommended.
Oh, we volunteered them to write it, so we just need to determine who wants to present it. It could be you if you wanted it to be. So, are there comments or questions about what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm welcome to help with it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody else wanted to.
All right, so are there any public comments on the issue? And then do we have any volunteers that are interested? I heard Committee Member Vice Chair Bunnell volunteered. Does anyone else want to volunteer?
I'll help you if you want, but you did the report. You did all the
I
work.
helped. No, she mainly did. I helped with her. I called her and said, "What do I need to do?" So this looks amazing. No, she helped with that, and I helped explain it, so I was able to. Yeah.
I think if you two did all the work, you'd probably be best suited to present it too, though, because you've got the background from doing the work.
That's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You were
oh, sure.
kind of voluntold, so you're good?
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I didn't mean to volunteer you, but it just, you did
I
all
would
the
volunteer, but I'm
all
going
the
to be out of
prep
town
work.
that night, so. All right, so do I have a motion to appoint Committee Member Bunnell and Vice Chair Bunnell and Committee Member Kitchell as the designees to present the committee's report to City Council?
Also move.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
So there's a motion by Committee Member Betancourt, seconded by Committee Vice Chair Bunnell, to appoint Vice Chair Bunnell and Committee Member Kitchell as the committee members to present the committee's report to the City Council. Terry, could you call the roll, please? That was a lot of words.
Chair Hill,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bunnell,
Yes.
Committee Member Betancourt,
Yes.
Committee Member Kitchell.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. And that is all we have for this evening. So, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we are adjourned at 6:16. Thank you.
Quick.